All right, let's dive into one of the most incredible but totally overlooked journeys that's happening inside you right now, and thousands of times a day. We're talking about the journey of a single breath. So, let me ask you something. What's the one vital process you're doing constantly, right this second, without even thinking about it? It's totally automatic, it never stops, and it's basically the engine that powers your entire life. Any guesses?
Yep, you got it. It's breathing. But it's so much more than just air in, air out. It's this complex, beautifully coordinated dance happening inside you, and that's exactly what we're going to break down.
So, for the next few minutes, we're going to follow the incredible journey of a single breath, from the very moment it enters your nose or mouth all the way to the finish line, where it delivers that life-giving oxygen to your cells. Ready? Let's go.
Okay, first things first. Every good journey needs a map, right? So before we get into the how, we need to look at the where. We're talking about the anatomical roadmap, the actual physical parts that make up your body's breathing machine.
So check out this path the air takes. It's a pretty straight shot. First, it comes in through your nasal cavity, where it gets warmed up and filtered. Then it heads down the pharynx, that's the back of your throat. From there, it zips past the larynx, which is your voice box, and dives into the trachea, your windpipe. The trachea is like the main freeway, and then it splits into two big roads, the bronchi, each one leading straight into a lung.
All right, so we've got the map, we know the route. But what's the engine? What actually makes the air move? To figure that out, we gotta head down to the engine room and look at the mechanics of a breath.
The core idea here is actually way simpler than you might think. Your body is basically just a really sophisticated pump. All it's doing is changing the amount of space, the volume, inside your chest. When you do that, you change the pressure, and that's what either sucks air in or pushes it out. That's it.
And what's really cool is how these two actions are perfect opposites. So to breathe in, that's inspiration, your diaphragm, this big muscle at the base of your lungs, contracts and moves down. At the same time, your rib muscles pull your whole rib cage up and out. All this makes your chest bigger, creating this little vacuum that just pulls air right in. And to breathe out, expiration, well, everything just relaxes. The diaphragm moves back up, the ribs fall, the space shrinks, and poof, the air gets pushed right out. It's so simple and so efficient, it's kind of amazing.
But hold on, this isn't just some mindless mechanical pump. Oh no, your brain is the mission control for this whole operation. Deep inside your brainstem, there's a respiratory center that's constantly, and I mean constantly, monitoring the carbon dioxide levels in your blood. If it senses there's a bit too much CO2 building up, it immediately sends a signal out. Hey, breathe faster, get that stuff out of here. It's this brilliant, non-stop feedback loop.
And you know what's cool? We can actually measure all this. Like that normal, easy breath you're taking right now, we call that your tidal volume. Okay, now do this with me. Take a really deep breath in. Feel that? All that extra air you just pulled in, that's your inspiratory reserve volume. Now breathe out normally, and at the end, push out a little bit more. You can always squeeze a little extra out, right? That's your expiratory reserve volume. But even after you push everything out, there's still a little bit of air left in there. That's the residual volume. And when you add it all up, everything you can possibly breathe in and out, that's your vital capacity. Okay, so the air has traveled down the highway, the engine is pumping, and it's finally arrived in the lungs. Now we get to the whole point of this entire journey. This is the main event, the climax of the story, the great gas exchange. Seriously, this is where all the magic happens.
So deep inside your lungs, you have these millions and millions of tiny microscopic air sacs. They're called alveoli. And get this, there are so many of them that if you could somehow flatten them all out, they would cover an entire tennis court. Just incredible. This is the final destination for the breath we've been following.
So the big question is, how does the oxygen actually get out of the air and into your blood? Well, it all comes down to a really simple process called diffusion. The best way to think about it is like this. Imagine you drop some food coloring into a glass of water. The color just naturally spreads out from the concentrated drop into the rest of the water, right? It moves from high concentration to low concentration. Well, gases do the exact same thing.
And right here in the alveoli, this amazing two-way transfer happens. Think of it like a trade. The air you just breathed in is packed with oxygen. The blood arriving at your lungs, it's oxygen poor, but it's loaded with carbon dioxide waste. So naturally, oxygen flows from the air into the blood. And at the exact same moment, the carbon dioxide flows out of the blood and into the air, ready to be exhaled. It's a perfect instantaneous swap.
All right, the trade is complete. The oxygen is officially in the bloodstream. But now what?
How does it get to your brain, your muscles, all the way down to your toes? Well, it needs a delivery service. Let's call it the Red River Express. We're moving on to the transport phase.
And every delivery service needs a delivery truck, right? Well, meet hemoglobin. This is a vital protein that's packed into your red blood cells. Think of each one as a tiny little truck that's just perfect for grabbing onto oxygen molecules and carrying them wherever they need to go.
This whole transport system is incredibly sophisticated. For oxygen, it's pretty straightforward. It just latches onto hemoglobin and enjoys the ride. But the return trip for the waste, carbon dioxide, is even more clever. See, CO2 is a little tricky to transport, so your body uses a multi-part strategy. Most of it gets converted into something else called bicarbonate ions. Some of it actually hitches a ride back on the hemoglobin trucks, and a tiny amount just dissolves right into the blood plasma. It's a really smart way to efficiently get rid of the trash.
Now, this whole system is just remarkable when it's working right, but it's also pretty delicate. So let's take a quick look at what happens when the system fails, when this whole complex process gets compromised.
Different problems can pop up at different points in the journey. Remember that roadmap we looked at? Well, with asthma, those airways get inflamed and narrow, making it really tough for the air to pass through. Or remember those tennis court-sized alveoli? In a disease like emphysema, the walls of those little air sacs get damaged, which means you have way less surface area for that all-important gas exchange. And of course, long-term exposure to things like dust or chemicals can cause scarring that makes the lungs stiff and just less efficient at their job.
You know, there's a line from our source material that just sums it all up perfectly. It says that respiration in humans involves specialized organs, a regulated breathing mechanism, efficient gas exchange and transport. It really is like a perfectly conducted symphony, with every single part playing its role in harmony.
So, there you have it. We've just followed the entire journey of one single breath. It's a process that happens more than 20,000 times a day for most of us, and we barely ever give it a second thought. It's this incredibly elegant, absolutely vital system. So the final question I want to leave you with is, what are you doing to protect yours?